Okay, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's the podcast that's doing an episode every day this year, which is absurd. And what I love, though, is that I get to have people come on the show. They drop by and they bring their expertise and their knowledge and their wisdom and their happiness and joy. And I get to meet people from around the world as well. We're going to jump on a plane here. I'm in Canada. We're going to take a flight. It's going to be a long flight, but we're going to get there. And Anja's here with us. We're going to be talking about her podcast journey. She helps podcasters. She's got a brand new show. She likes lemons with an attitude. You'll see it out on our website. And she's a great person to chat with. I'm excited to have her here as my co-host. Welcome to the podcast as my guest co-host. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dave. It feels like we've been co-hosts for a few years because I'm really enjoying this chat with you. And I know we started recording and we shouldn't say like we spoke in the pre-chat. That's like annoying for listeners, but I have to say you seem like a really cool person. And I'm so happy to be having this chat with you and being a part of your 365-day podcasting experience.
I know, right? Isn't that's not normal, right?
No, but I'm saying this with most love in the world. But congrats for being not normal.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a true statement right there. So we met through Podmatch. So thank you, Alex, and the amazing team at Podmatch, because this is all happening because of that, which is great. So that's awesome. Let's talk about your podcast right off the bat. And kind of, you've been doing podcasting for years now, but you have a new show. You're doing like similar to what I'm doing, trying to encourage people with their podcast journey. Tell us a little bit more about your new show and what's it all about? Who's it for?
Yeah, thank you. And I think that this new show is something I should have done. This is what every podcaster says, by the way. This is something I should have done years ago, but I've been battling with my own inner thoughts that are really subjective and annoying. And I should have listened to my gut instinct earlier. So this is a brand new show, which was years in the making. And it's called Say Yes to Podcasting. And its main goal is to help solopreneurs launch profitable podcasts. And by that, I mean solopreneurs who want to take the plunge and launch audio podcasts. I have to emphasize the word audio and make it a part of their business, like a business extension. Because I think, and you know this very well, podcasting is such a fun and human to human medium that I don't think any other medium comes even close. And this is something that I want other solopreneurs and business owners in general to realize. And I know many people are aware of it and they are podcast consumers, but they're for some reason afraid to launch their own. So Say Yes to Podcasting is their weekly reminder that if I can do it, they can do it.
Now you did just say, you touched on something. You just said an audio podcast.
Yes.
And that's important. In a world of video becoming a very common topic in podcasting, are you holding firm to the audio side of podcasting at this point? This is your main focus? And what do you do with people who come to you and say, hey, but I want to do video? Where are you at with this? Because I'm dealing with it too.
Yeah, I prefer audio. I'm an audio first and audio only podcaster for now because I am a mother of two, and that's a fact that will never change. And for quite some time, I have a lot of time ahead of me where I will need to be and stay flexible, and I will need to find ways to make my schedule work for me. And I also want to be there for my daughters, but I also want to be a great business owner who serves her clients well. And if I were to introduce video into my everyday schedule and life, I would honestly feel overwhelmed. And I know people will say, well, you only need to turn on the camera while you're recording, but that's not quite the way video works, especially when you're recording solo episodes. And by turning on the camera, that doesn't mean that people are going to flock to you, to your, for example, YouTube channel, YouTube podcast, because to make a video podcast successful, it takes a lot of skill and a different kind of mindset and a different, I will say, performance in order for it to make it work. This is why I'm mostly focused on audio, but that's only one of the reasons why. I also know that my listeners are audio-only users and they listen to podcasts on the go. I'm sure you've experienced this too. Whenever I listen to podcasts personally, I do a lot of different things at the same time. I never tune into video podcasts and just watch, for example, two people interact. What are your thoughts on that? Are you with me?
Yeah. Now, most of the time, my phone is in my pocket or away from me in another room, and it's playing, and I might have my earbuds in, and I'm doing something else. I'm doing the dishes, which my wife really appreciates. She likes when I do the dishes. I'm at work, and I'm busy. My boss is watching me, and I can't be standing there staring at my phone, like easily like, get back to work. So yeah, for me, even if it's a video, I'm listening to the video. And I think the one thing is frustrating from an audio listening perspective is when the people on camera start talking about what's on the screen and I can't see you because I'm listening. So when I say it looks like your blinds are about halfway down, it looks like it's a nice day outside. People are like, Dave, I can't see anything. What are you saying? Or I love that picture behind you. That is so frustrating for the person that's listening because they feel like they are not the priority, right? It feels like the video people are the priority because you're talking about visual things, and the audio people, you're just sorry, you don't get our best in the podcast. So I do love an audio podcast for that reason too.
Yeah, I love what you said about they're not a priority and they might feel left behind, which is how I sometimes feel too when I'm listening to a podcast that was a video first podcast. And I'm like, don't neglect us, audio listeners, because I will never tune into your video podcast, not because of something personal, not because I dislike you, but that's just not how I operate. That is not how I consume content.
What is your preferred app or whatever to listen to podcasts then? What do you use yourself?
Yeah, I use Apple Podcasts and it is something I've had for years. And I sometimes go to Spotify to look for certain playlists, but that happens like once a year. So I mostly save my favorite episodes or go to Apple Podcasts to the charts to look for new podcasts to listen to. What about you?
Yeah, I'm actually a Spotify listener because I was a music listener before podcasts. So I listen on Spotify for music. Spotify now added music videos as well, which is interesting. In the US, MTV was known for music videos. They have now closed. And just at about the same time that MTV closed, Spotify added video. Spotify actually added exercise videos recently. So you could do like a whole yoga class in video on Spotify. And I'm like, weird. They're really pushing into video from their perspective. But so I like it for that. The one thing I do like as well is you can leave a comment in the episode on Spotify. So more than a rating and review, you can actually interact with your audience inside the episode about that topic of the episode. So I do like that. But if you prefer Apple, I always encourage my podcasters who are Apple users to still claim your show on Spotify. You don't have to be hosted there, but claim your show on Spotify and go look, because you might have comments from listeners who have not been responded to. Like, you should actually respond to these comments, just like YouTube or wherever, Instagram. People leave you a message. It's kind of nice to actually respond. So I encourage them to do that as well.
That's such a great point, because having a podcast on Spotify as well, I mean, it automatically gets distributed to Spotify as well, but having comments on there feels like you're in a mini social media platform and you can, as you said, actually interact with your audience, which is what podcasting kind of is notoriously known for lacking, because we do not have this immediate interaction with our audience, which we as podcast hosts crave. And I really want to get feedback from my audience sometimes. And sometimes I feel like I need to deliberately ask throughout the episode, tell me what you think about this. Tell me if you want me to go deeper on a certain topic. And then when I do get a DM, a message from a listener, an actual human listener, I really appreciate that. And it sometimes feels like we have these headphones on and we're talking into a mic, and it's difficult to imagine humans on the other side unless you get that feedback. So yeah, that's a great thing with Spotify. And with Apple, yes, there are ratings and reviews, but it's a bit one-sided still. So I would prefer to have comments on Apple as well.
When you think back over the many years you've been podcasting and all the different shows you've done, can you think of a moment when you heard from a listener and it confirmed for you that podcasting was a good choice for you? Like you had a connection, a moment with a listener and they reached out to you. Did it happen and what did they say to you?
Yeah, this happened. I was lucky that this happened on multiple occasions, but with different shows. At first, my first podcasting experience was being in a co-host seat. So that was super fun and something that I really, truly enjoyed. And it was in my native language, Croatian. We were co-hosts for 2 years. My colleague was the one running the show. I was the co-host. We were thinking of podcast episode ideas together, but he was the one editing the show and so forth. And I remember getting many comments from our audience. I think this is like a cultural thing because in Croatia, there are not that many podcasts to begin with, and there are not that many niche podcasts. So it is easier to stand out because there's by nature. So we got many comments from people saying how they enjoyed our dynamic, how they enjoyed our banter, and it felt effortless for the two of us because we were great friends and we joked around and we explored language topics that were interesting for us. So it felt like someone was complimenting on our friendship, which was strange and endearing at the same time. And when it comes to my solo podcast, I recently got a lot of comments from actual listeners saying how, and you will relate to this, saying how they felt like I was talking to them while I was recording the episode. And I think this is one of the biggest compliments a podcaster can get because, as I said before, you have this mic in front of you. I don't record video. I record audio only in my, I want to say home studio just to sound fancy, but it's my it's my daughter's bedroom with my computer. So yeah, it can sometimes feel a bit lonely. And when you do get that feedback from real life listeners, it's all very rewarding.
Yeah, I heard from a listener of my Dad Space podcast this week, and he said, when I'm up at 3 a.m. feeding my baby, I'm listening to you and you keep me company.
Wow.
I'm like my heart. I'm just like, really?
Wow.
Like, that's what I turn to when I'm sitting there feeding my newborn. And I'm like, wow. Like, now I have a visual in my head of somebody listening to my show.
Yeah.
And like talk about motivation to create the next episode. Because I know there are going to be feedings tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I better have something ready for this person. Right?
Yeah. And not only that, like not motivation to record the next episode. I wanted to say this is like fuel for the entire year because as you said, you have this visual.
I know.
It's like, it doesn't get any more intimate than that because I can imagine a father feeding their baby because this is all very real for me too. Getting up in the middle of the night and knowing it's going to be a long night and finding comfort in something that you've created, there is no bigger reward than that. I would argue that goes hand in hand with getting clients from your show. Like that's equally as rewarding.
So how big is podcasting from a listener's perspective in Croatia? Like, are people actively looking for podcasts and are they pulling from the US market? Like, where do they go when they're looking for a show?
Both. This is a pretty young medium, I would say worldwide even compared to other types of media. But in Croatia, it is even newer. And a few years back when I was a co-host on that show, I used to get questions like, what is a podcast? And now I don't get those questions in Croatia anymore. And this is also one of the reasons why I mentor in English, because I wanted to reach a wider audience and an audience who is familiar with the term podcasting, who knows the benefits. And in Croatia, people mostly listen to podcasts for entertainment. And I don't have like cold hard data to pull from, but when I see my friends, I know that they're looking for podcasts to be entertained. They're listening to them while they're unwinding. They love video podcasts. And I'm talking about my friends who are, for example, traditionally employed compared to the other pool of people who are business owners who want to be educated, who are tuning into podcasts to learn something. And this is something I do. I tune into podcasts to learn something new. So podcasts are definitely on the rise in Croatia. And I think we still have such a huge advantage because if you record a podcast in a small language, such as Croatian, you will stand out so much more easily than if you were to record the same type of podcast in the same niche in English for the international audience. So yeah, it's still fairly new, but people need to take advantage of it. And I think it will still be fairly new and fresh for many years to come in a country like mine.
See, we here in Canada, we live in the shadow of America. And a lot of podcasting news comes out of America. A lot of the big shows are in America. The big events are in America. Not so much in Canada. So I created CanadianPodcaster.com, where I pull Canadian content and Canadian creators, and I put it into a magazine every month. It's a virtual magazine, and I send it out for free, and it goes on CanadianPodcaster.com. And the idea was I wanted a library of Canadian content for people who live in Canada or who love Canadian content, because we don't have a voice in Canada. In that way, we have other people also trying to do things to raise the awareness of content in Canada. But I wanted something visual, like a visual magazine, and more than just an email, I found. Because for me, I read the emails, but I don't really remember them as much, right? Unless there's something really powerful. And I wanted something that's easy to share. So in the magazine, I actually feature about 10 to 15 podcasters every month. And I put little clips. I do a podcast with it as well. So you can actually, and I pull little clips of their show and I make an episode about them and put it out there saying, hey, go listen to these podcasts. These are all Canadians. So I just find in a world that's really US focused on many, many things in this world that I wanted to have something special for my country. So might be something to think about for you down the road when you have a few minutes to do something that features the creators in your country, because then you're kind of collecting them together and giving them all a voice as a group, right? So,
yeah, that's a great point and a great thing you're doing. And I was wondering, what kind of feedback have you got from Canadian podcast consumers and podcasters?
The people that are on the show are like that I feature are most of them are independent podcasters as well. They're not with a big organization with a lot of funding. So they already have great ways to reach out into the world and get seen and heard. I wanted to help people that are doing this on their own and doing it by themselves so that they also felt like they were part of the group, right? So that's kind of my focus. And from those people, they love it. They love the fact that somebody's acknowledging them. Because you said, we do this by ourselves, we do this alone, and we feel kind of like, who's listening to this? Who's supporting this? Who cares, right? So I wanted the magazine to be something that helped them to be found. And from their free feedback, they're really enjoying it. So that was the whole point of it. If we can just raise the awareness of the content in my country, then that's great. And for the podcast, the listeners, I have listeners around the world. And what I found is some of them are Canadians who are now living in Japan or Canadians that live in the UK. So they wanted a little bit of home and wanted to keep up to date on what's happening in their home country, even now that they live somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Sorry. So you're not only an ambassador of podcasting, you're an unofficial ambassador of your own country. And Canada is a big country, and you can only imagine how things are in a country so small as Croatia, because we have less than 4 million people living here.
Wow.
You know?
That's still a big audience. That's a big community, right, to serve.
Yeah, it is, but not a lot of them are podcast listeners, especially active podcast listeners. So whoever decides to do that in Croatia, it might be me, might not, I'm not sure. I don't like putting myself on the spot like this, but it will be a great thing and a great initiative, because what I realized about podcasters in general, they are really community-led people, and there is no competition compared to other industries. Yeah. And it sometimes feels like we have no other choice than to stick together, and it's like an unwritten rule, like podcasters just stick together, which is something I really love about this industry. When
the people that you help, the people you work with, are they all focused on the business side of podcasting and using podcasts for their business, or do you help people who are also doing it just out of sheer passion? And they're not really looking to make money. They just want to get on the microphone and help people. Are you kind of helping both, or do you focus more on the business side?
I focus on the business side, and this is what my the main focus of the podcast, Say Yes to Podcasting, is using a podcast as a business tool. And I normally say, whenever I speak to people, if you want to launch a podcast as a passion project, there is nothing wrong with that. But in that case, you don't need to follow certain quote unquote rules, even though we know that podcasting is what you make it out to be. But if you want to launch it as a passion project, you don't need to necessarily expect to get clients from it. And there is something special about podcasting for podcasting's sake, which is what me and my colleague did with our language podcast a few years back. And it is a different experience. It is, I wouldn't say necessarily more enjoyable, but you assume a different mindset compared to when you're podcasting for business. So whenever I'm coming up with content for my podcast, I'm thinking about how I can serve my listeners best so they can learn something, they can apply something, or they can potentially hire me to help them do that thing. And it's I assume different personas whenever I'm podcasting for passion, as a passion project, and whenever I'm podcasting as a business tool.
And you've got I'm looking at your website where we're talking. Again, the lemon, the top left corner. Everyone go check out the lemon. It's got an attitude. I love it's everywhere. I see everywhere I scroll. There's more lemons.
Yeah, and the website was created by a Canadian, so I need to shout her out. Woo-hoo! Emily Court. Woo!
Hey, all right. Way to go, Emily. Yeah, great. Good job. No, it's great. So if somebody wanted to come work with you, we're kind of in the pitch mode right now. If somebody wanted to come work with you, what are some of the things that you're going to ask them when you first meet them? Some of the questions that you normally ask new clients?
That's the beauty of podcasting, because whenever someone approaches me, they already listened to at least a couple of my episodes.
Is that right?
Yeah, or consumed some of my LinkedIn content. So they come semi-prepared, at least with the vocabulary and with some of the thoughts that have been bothering them. So recently I had a lady approach me, and she was so concerned about the technical aspect of podcasting. And I answered those questions politely, and then I stopped her and asked her what her podcast is about, what she's trying to accomplish, and so forth. And then we realized that the bottleneck is not tech, but it is actually she was trying to target two audiences, which is, if you're launching a business podcast and you want to get clients, you don't want to mix audiences. So people come with their specific questions that they think are urgent and burning, while in reality, we're diagnosing something else. But people mostly don't come to me cold turkey like, I want to launch a podcast. They come with their own preconceived notions, or they come after listening to a couple of episodes. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, I like that mixed audience thing. That makes a lot of sense, because you can't serve two audiences really well at the same time. It's really hard to do, because the audience, again, will get mixed up listening. They're like, this doesn't relate to me at all, this topic. Yeah. Right? Why am I listening to this show? Right. You can be really focused on who you're talking to.
Yeah. This is why I love the title of your podcast, How to Podcast Series. Is as clear as day. Do you want to start a podcast or not?
It's funny, because when I meet people, and this is one of the things I always encourage podcasters to do, when you meet someone, ask them how they found your show. That's good information. How do they listen to your show? What apps do they use? That kind of stuff, because that's going to help you to decide what's working. So, for example, if I ask 10 podcasters how they found the show, and nobody says Facebook, nobody, and I spend 40 hours a week on Facebook, I might be able to spend that time somewhere else if nobody tells me that they found me on Facebook. If everybody tells me that they found me on LinkedIn, and I don't do hardly anything on LinkedIn, imagine if I really tried on LinkedIn then. If people are already there finding me, it's working. So go with what works, and don't try to reinvent the wheel. If it's working, then just use it. Like, lean into that and make that your main thing. When we first start a podcast, we don't really know who our audience is, really. We imagine who they might be. But once you start talking to your listeners and you actually get feedback, then you can actually narrow down and go, I know that my audience is here, and this is my ideal person that I like to work with. And it helps you to create better content as well. So imagine who they're going to be and then narrow it down over time, and you'll meet the right audience. I think that's kind of my approach.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I always say to people, let's define your ideal listener persona. And that's a very kind of surgical thing, because you know in advance whom you will be targeting, and you will focus every episode you create on them. But I like what you said, because you should also leave that door a bit open for surprises, because you never know who's on the other end, and you don't know what kind of client or listener might be on the other side, thoroughly enjoying every episode you create. So I really like that aspect you share, like being open, having an idea, having a plan, but also leaving some room for surprises.
So an example for you, I have Dad Space. It's a podcast for dads by dads. I'm a grandfather. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 2. And for me, I created the show for fathers. It's not for men, all men. It's for dads, fathers who had kids, adopted children, your own children, right? That's who it's for. It's for fathers. And I've limited my audience from men down to fathers. I'm not talking to mothers. There's a lot of amazing mother podcasts and mom podcasts. They are super. They do really well. So I don't want to go that way. I want to go to dads. So what's interesting though, even though I'm talking specifically to dads, 68% of my audience are female. For a dad podcast. And when I see that in my stats and my comments coming back from the women who listen to my show, I'm like, I'm still going to create content for dads. That's still my focus. But I really love that people who are outside of my ideal audience that I'm imagining I'm reaching out to find value in the content, that they come back. And the moms that are coming, some of them are coming because they're raising kids on their own. They don't have a dad in the home, and they want a balance to their parenting from a different point of view and a different perspective. And they come for that reason. There's a lot of different reasons people come to the show, but I just love that even when we really focus our attention down and we feel like we're ignoring or excluding somebody, they still feel welcome, right? That's still a big thing. I want to encourage people. Make sure that your audience is welcome to your show. And whenever you have a chance to talk to them. Ask them what they need, right? And it's going to make your show better.
Yeah. I really like this surprise, because women are in the majority of your listenership, even though your podcast is geared toward dads.
I know.
So bizarre, but also makes sense. When you explain it that way, this is like a mini masterclass in niching down. Like, right. But still, right. You can still be surprised.
Right. And again, that is not my target audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I guess another comment that I had recently too, which was really interesting. Somebody reached out and said, Dave, I listened to your How to Podcast series, but I'm never going to have a podcast. And then they said, I listen to your show not for the content. I don't listen to your show for the content. And I'm like, I try really hard on my show to do good content. I bring great guests like you on the show. Like we have great conversations, right? But this person said, I don't listen to your show for that. I have no interest in starting a podcast ever. I like you. That's what they said. I like you as the host. And I like that you show up on my phone now every day. I like that you show up and I listen to you because I like you. You could talk about anything and I'd listen to your show. I just happened to find your How to Podcast series. So thanks for being there for me. You're a great companion in my day.
That's so beautiful.
Like, isn't that great? Like, I really put a lot of effort into my show and try to give the best content possible. But this person has zero interest in anything I have to say. They're not here for the topic.
And you now have to ask them how they found your show. Because if they're not interested in podcasting, what made them click, press play, right?
Yeah, I know, right? It's just the weirdest thing. So you can have a plan, but you can also have what happens outside of the plan. And be open to that as well. Because you just never know what's going to happen. I think that's so cool that we as podcasters have a connection with people and can be in their lives, and they welcome us into their lives. And we're there as a source of information and support, but we're just also just a friendly voice that they become used to, and they build you into their routine. It's the best thing ever.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the beauty of podcasting, because You never know who's on the other side, and they are, with every episode, getting to know you as a person and as an expert, depending on the type of podcast you have, which is all the more reason to try to be as authentic as you can, which is why as I said at the start, I try to be as honest and as transparent as I can be in my episodes. And I have a sense that you do that as well, because there is no point in performing. And this is yet another ode to audio medium, because I feel whenever I'm on video, I have that idea inside my head that I'm on video, which may hinder my quote unquote performance. And whenever I'm recording episodes by myself, solo episodes, I feel like I'm a more unfiltered and more authentic version of myself. I don't know if you feel the same.
Right. Yeah, because you don't feel like you're performing or putting on, you're just not so focused on all the visual side of what you're doing. You can just focus in on what you're saying and connecting with your audience, right?
Yeah. It's like having a one-to-one conversation, like in person. You're not focused on video because there are no cameras.
It's good. It's really good. Beyond video and podcasting, what's one other thing in podcasting that you're kind of hearing from podcasters and you're helping people with? Something that people are still wrestling with around content or their show? What else do you find that is kind of a common thing you hear from podcasters?
The imposter syndrome, like stuff people keep sharing, but I know we're all familiar with like those inner thoughts and inner battles we have. So I won't go too deep into that, because we can go on for hours just on imposter syndrome alone. So I will mention another thing that I see podcasters struggling with, and it is the fact that you need to have a certain kind of podcast to succeed. So, for example, I need to have an in-person interview-only YouTube podcast to be successful, because they see Stephen Bartlett and they think that is the definition of podcasting, which is absolutely not true. Or God forbid, Joe Rogan. Who would listen to a 3-hour podcast episode? Who does that? Like in one go? Let's be real. If it all depends on your goals, podcasting is what you decide podcasting is. And if you want, I'm always focused on the business side. If you want to create a podcast as your business asset, that means that you want to stay consistent. You want to serve your audience, which in turn means that you need to find ways to do that sustainably, and you don't want to burn out in the process, because podcasting is something that we need to enjoy to make it work. We need to enjoy having these conversations and to create episodes every single week and keep serving our audience, because that's essentially free content. And it takes so much like willpower and ambition and drive and knowledge that it will all pay off in the end. And it is not easy. So if you stopped wrestling with the idea of having a podcast, like, okay, I no longer feel imposter syndrome, I'm now ready to launch it, then you're faced with a different kind of internal mental battle, because that's what I'm facing right now. And this is what I shared before. Unless I get like positive feedback from real humans on the other side, it is difficult for me sometimes to sit down and record an episode for that week. But I also know that that episode is a non-negotiable for me, and that I will put it out. I will do my best with what I have at that moment. Now I forgot your original question because I went down this tangent.
Oh, I'm just following along. I love this. What about one thing to keep in mind when you're setting up a podcast for your business? Any specific thing? Because setting it up for a hobby or a passion project could be a little different than a business-related podcast. Is there anything specifically that you make or suggest to your podcasters that they should do when first starting their show, when they're focused on business?
Something that is universally true for business owners, and especially coaches and mentors and people who are teaching others how to do certain things in business, it is treat your podcast as if you're talking to your coaching clients. And you're killing like 5 birds with one stone with that thought alone, right? Because you have your ideal listener, you know what they're struggling with, you know what they need help with, you know how to explain those concepts because you're already doing that every single week. So you know you already have those ideas organized inside your head. You're already doing that. Just put a mic in front of you and record those episodes that way. And I would also argue that this is what I say to clients all the time. You already have content recorded. You're just not calling them podcast episodes, right?
Interesting. I like that. That's good. Yeah, see, I knew I was going to learn something today. I love this. So for a new listener coming to your show, first timer, is there a starting point? Where would you send somebody new? Most recent episode, go back in the beginning and listen to all of them like I'm doing? Where should we go as a listener? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I would like for them to listen to everything, but that's an annoying thing to say, like check out Say Yes to Podcasting and tune in. That's not what I want to share. I want you to start with episode 1. It is 3 things you should do before you launch your podcast. Because that relieves the pressure off of new podcasters. It's not something you need to do straight away. You don't need to launch your podcast today. You can see what are some of the things that will help you dip the toe in, test the waters, and see if this is for you. Because as I said, I like to be realistic and I want people to enjoy the process, because when you're enjoying something, you have no competition. But if you're not enjoying it, you will force yourself every week through the process. And this is not something I want, even if you're paying me, even if you're a paying client.
I like it. You talked about imposter syndrome. I know we're not going to do a whole episode on that, but one of the things that I help podcasters with when somebody brings that up is we stop talking about it for a second. I'm like, okay, grab a piece of paper and a pen or grab your phone. Write out a few things that you know how to do that you used to not know how to do. Whatever that is. Drive a car, be a parent, whatever. Just give me a whole list of things that you know how to do. Cook. Do you know how to paint a room? Do you know how to fix something? What have you taught yourself? What have you learned? What's new for you? But now it's almost like you can do it without even thinking. And so then we make a list. So for me, I drive a car and my car has a manual transmission. So I change gears with my gear shift, right? I can get in my car and drive and it's not even a thought. Somebody sits beside me and they look at me, they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. For me, I don't even think about it. I get home and I didn't even, any time did I look down and go, oh, I'm nervous. I forgot how to do this. I've done it for my whole life. I just know how to do it. So that goes on my list of all the things that I've accomplished, things that I've learned how to do. And anytime you have a thought that you're not good enough, you shouldn't be here. You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. There's people who are better than you. Nobody wants to hear from you. You're not going to be good at this. Those are imposter syndrome thoughts coming in. They're thoughts. They're not facts. They're thoughts. A fact is I can drive a car that's a manual transmission. That's a fact. I'm a dad of 3. That's a fact. And I just go through my list of facts, and every time I have a thought, I just pair it up against the facts and go, well, this thought doesn't mean anything because I have this proof that I can do things and I've learned things and I've taken on big things in my life. And now they become just easy over time.
Muscle memory.
So anytime I feel like I'm not good enough in the moment to be a podcaster, who cares what I have to say, right? This person's way better at it than I am. That's my kind of my measuring stick. The other thing too is I'm a guitar player. I've been playing music for a long time. When I go and see a really good guitar player, I have 2 options. I can either go, well, they're way better than I am, so I'm going to sell my guitar and quit because they're so good. Or I can come home and say, if they could do that, they have the same number of fingers and the same guitar that I have. If they can do it, then if I put the effort in, I can get better. And there's hope for me to learn. So it's either going to encourage me to quit or it's going to encourage me to try harder and learn, right? So that's kind of my approach from a music perspective. And as podcasters, you might hear your favorite podcaster, you might meet somebody that you look up to, and you have a choice. You can say, well, they're so much better than I am. There's no room for me here. I'm going to quit, walk away from podcasting. Or if they can do it, I can do it. Because they started at 0, just like me. I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to catch up and gain information and practice. But there's hope for me. So what's kind of your reaction to that kind of counter imposter syndrome? way of addressing
My reaction is, may I steal this from you and use it with my clients?
Oh, please, you can have it. It's yours.
I will give
Go.
you
Run with
credit. Don't worry. I really love how you put it, because it reminds me of an episode I did for my podcast, which is where I talked about consistency, and we have a similar way of thinking, because I mentioned brushing your teeth, putting on your clothes, and those things are non-negotiables, and they are something you do every day. They're muscle memory. Sometimes I don't even remember that I brush my teeth, because it is such a normal part of my day, like a couple of times a day. And this is something we could also implement when it comes to podcasting, because a lot of people struggle with consistency before they even start, which is a valid concern. And I always validate it and say to them, okay, if you want to make this a part of your routine, you need to make room for it and not necessarily cram it into your schedule. So make it part of your routine as practically as possible. I'm now speaking in general terms. Every podcaster is different and with different responsibilities. Not everyone is a parent, but I would say that a lot of business owners, most business owners are busy, and you can introduce podcasting into your life, but you need to eliminate some things. And the more you do it, the harder it will become to give up. It will be harder to give up and miss an upload than it will be to keep on uploading, to keep that streak going, which is something I said to one of my clients this week precisely. She shared with me, like, another episode is out. I'm so proud of myself because she's now doing these on her own. And I always encourage her, and I even asked her how she's able to do it. And she just wants to keep the streak going. And she knows that it feels comforting to have me by her side for any questions and doubts and concerns. But at some point, it stops being about you and your schedule, and it starts being more about the people you're serving, because you kind of have this responsibility toward your listeners who will and may become your clients down the line.
That's why I'm so glad we're talking. I am going to ask and beg of you that you come back in the future, because when I meet somebody like you who shows up, cares about your community the way you do, loves podcasting, wants to see people succeed in podcasting, I just want more time with you. I don't want this to be our one time that we get to talk. So keep me in mind in the future. I'd love to have you come back. We can tackle another topic or a subject, or just have you on just so I can have time with you, if that's okay.
Since this podcast will be running for every day of this year, I'm absolutely up for like being a part of 5 of your episodes this year alone. So thank you so much. This is very I feel honored, because I know you're doing so much in the podcasting space, and there is so much I could learn from you. So the fact that you're inviting me back already, like, yes, absolutely, yes.
And likewise, there's so much I can learn from you, and I've learned so much already today. I really do appreciate you being here, and our connection is great. Tell again the website. Again, we got to go check out the lemons. I want everyone to go, when you go to the website, count up the lemons and send me the total. How many lemons have you seen on the website? I want to know. That's your homework, everybody. I need to know the number. Talk about the website and where we're going to send people to come work with you as well.
Yeah, the best next step is to go to sayestopodcasting.com/howtopodcast, because that's something I want your listeners to experience.
I've heard that. How to podcast.
It sounds familiar. I know. How sneaky of me. I
love it.
It's something I want to send your listeners to, because it's a 5-part audios only series where people can stay right where they are in their podcasting app. You just download this private podcast and get acquainted with podcasting like as a process in your own time. And it is only 56 minutes in total, 5 audio lessons. And it's something that will help you move forward faster compared to, I don't know, any other blog post or PDF or checklist I might share with you today. So a 5-lesson audio training, I think, is the best thing for future podcasters, because we're all podcast consumers as well.
I love it. I love it. When I go on as a guest on podcasts, I went and got the domain giftfromdave.com.
Wow, nice.
So when I get to the end of my thing, I'm like, yeah, where do we go? Just go to giftfromdave.com. And they're like, what is it? Oh, it's my calendar link.
Nice.
You know, you can have time with me as much as you want. So that's my gift, my time. So that's kind of how I do my endings. And it's been very interesting because the host is like, you're not going to promote your website? I'm like, No, that's fine. Giftfromdave.com. That's enough.
That's
right?
very
So
clever.
I'm like, it's very interesting, right? Yeah, it works. So it's a lot of fun. But again, thank you so much for doing this and for being on the show. And again, I'm holding you to it. You got to come back. And I'm going to go count my lemons right now. So
I know
awesome.
where I will book my slot now. Giftfromdave.com. Yeah.
There you go. Well done. Well done. I love it. Everybody, all information is always in the show notes. Please go support yet another podcaster out there talking about podcasting, doing it in a unique and fun way, helping many people, representing the beautiful country of Croatia. It's so cool that we can do this in podcasting. I'm just a big fan. Thank you so much for being on the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. See you again.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcasts with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review, do the follow, go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. It's probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. You're on the How to Podcast series. We'll talk to you soon for our next episode. Hey, you're still here. Amazing. Okay, this is a bonus thing just for you. Everybody else is gone. Just you and me. And I'm getting some podcasters nervously asking about AI and my thoughts about what AI is going to do to podcasting. Is it even really worth it to have a podcast when podcasts can now be generated by a search on a AI tool and voiced by AI voices and all automated and no human touch at all, not even a review. It's happening in podcasting right now. And it's like this whole big push to create content that has no humans involved at all. And the question to me is, well, why even start a podcast? How can we set ourselves apart from all these podcasts that are created by a computer? Well, the one thing that a computer can't do is community. A computer can't replicate a caring community where people gather together around a shared topic, support each other, and build into each other. I think for any type of podcast that's built around coaching, around a book, around a course, around a how-to, any of these things would be prime real estate to build a community and to bring people together. I think the more that we embrace AI and all of the great things that come with AI and some of the bad things, the more we fall in love with AI, I think the more we're going to be drawn to places where we can connect with real people. Think about going back to the global event. You know, that thing that happened back in 2020, where everybody was relegated back to their homes, and there was no in-person anything. Couldn't even see your family. And how we were longing for connection. I think AI is similar in that way, that as we rely on these tools to create our content, to create our show, to create all of our artwork and our social clips and automate our emails and do everything that removes the humanity from what we do as podcasters, there's going to be a push for people who are longing for actual human connection again. And it's going to be, thankfully, in a better context, that we're not under a global health event, but I think that there's going to be a longing for people to connect again and to find their people, find their community. And AI is not good at doing that at this point. So there's where your secret sauce could be, that you create a space for people. And it could simply just be that you create your podcast. Like, you don't actually have to go out and spend money on an app or a platform to bring people together. I use Meetup, for example. It's like $50 a month to do this. It costs me a considerable amount of money that could go to groceries or gas or paying debts. But I'm investing it in my community because the return is so great as far as building relationships with people. It's a loss leader for me. It's money that comes in and goes right out the door. And I do it because I love my community and I'm investing in it. I think any type of community that you build, whether it's your podcast, whether it's an adjacent to your podcast, wherever you build it, however you build it, making a safe place for people to connect with each other around the content of your show is how we can compete with AI. Because right now, AI is not good at group coaching, group interactions, and showing genuine love and concern for the people who love your show. So if you want to fight back against AI and you feel overwhelmed, then maybe go consider starting a community around what you do. Because it might be the perfect answer to a world that's fallen in love with a computer monitor. It's time to fall in love with people again. And a community is a great place to start. If you need any help with that, any suggestions, howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.